Um, um, Hello? Anybody out there? Hello? Anybody out? Hello? Anybody out? I can't see you. Are you? Wait. Oh, of course I couldn't see you. I had this bucket on my head and I couldn't see anything. What? Oh, why was I having this bucket on my head? Well, I had this bucket on my head because I wanted to see if I could use it to hide from the bad things that are happening around me. And I wanted to see if it made a difference. I don't think so. I'm not sure if it worked because it looked like things are still here. So even though I had it over my head, nothing really has changed. But you know what? If I were at the beach, I could use this bucket as my sand bucket. That's right. Hey, speaking of sand, did you ever hear the phrase, don't bury your head in the sand? Really? Why would somebody say that? Did you ever bury your head in the sand? I mean, you want to do that? You would get sand in your ears, your nose, your eyes, your mouth. That'd be pretty yucky if you buried your head in the sand and you wouldn't be able to breathe, would you? So this phrase of don't bury your head in the sand, where did that come from then? And what does it mean? Well, what it means is, and why people say it is to encourage us not to avoid or try to avoid dangerous situations or unpleasant realities or things that scare us by pretending that they do not exist. For instance, we could say to Tim, hey, Tim, stop burying your head in the sand. Don't pretend that everything's all right. You got to face your fear. Or to Lou, Lou, you can't bury your head in the sand about your health. Please make an appointment with your doctor and get that rash checked out. Yeah, some people like to avoid issues or problems, and so they have been said to have buried their head in the sand. Now, this phrase, burying the head in the sand, actually comes from the practices of ostriches, who ostriches spend a good deal of time having their head buried in the ground or the sand. They go in head first. Why do they bury their head in the sand? Well, for a long time, some people thought that ostriches put their heads in the sand because they were afraid, and that if they buried their heads in the sand, then the ostriches could not see what was frightening them, and therefore they believed that did not exist. Well, that's really not true. Most of the time, when ostriches have their heads in the sand or the ground, they're eating sand or gravel, which is used then to help them digest some of the other food that they eat. So, this idea that ostriches buried their heads in the sand to avoid scary and unpleasant situations, even though it's not true, it's stuck with us. And that's why we say, don't bury your head in the sand, meaning that we shouldn't avoid unpleasant things. You know what? We really can't avoid unpleasant things, can we? No, no matter how much we try, there are things that are scary. There are things that create anxiety for us in the world, and those things continue to happen. It's like COVID-19, the flu virus that's going around. We can't hide from it, and we can't pretend it's not happening. It's happening no matter what we do. We just have to learn to live with it and learn to adjust. And we've been doing that. And we've not been burying our heads in the sand about it. We've been facing it. You know, we can't ignore the bad things that happen around us and just hope they go away. We have to face the things that can upset us. We need to be aware of what happens around us, and we need to be wise and not try to hide from those things and pretend that they don't exist by burying our heads in the sand or putting our heads in the bucket. But you know, Scripture offers some very encouraging words to us of why we should be wise and what difference it makes in our lives. 1 Timothy 4:16, the Apostle Paul says this, be careful of how you live and what you believe. Never give up. Then you will save yourselves and those who hear you. You know, I don't like to listen to people who say negative things all the time. Ah, this isn't going to work, or I'm scared of this. That's not really helpful. So I'm careful of how I live and what I believe. I want to believe that God is with me and I should never give up. And I do believe that God is with me just as he's with you. Psalm 118, verses 6 through 9, the psalmist says this, the Lord is with me. Therefore, I will not be afraid. What can mere human beings do to me? The Lord is with me. He helps me. I win the battle over my enemies. It is better to go to the Lord for safety than to trust in mere human beings. It is better to go to the Lord for safety than to trust in human leaders. But we need to hear that sometimes, don't we? You know what? God is telling us that we don't need to put a bucket on our heads, nor do we need to put our head in the sand. We just need to trust God. That's right. We need to make sure that we are listening to God's words and not just the words of men that are telling us sometimes to be very fearful. Rather, we want to listen to God, who is telling us to trust in Him, keep looking up, keep trusting God, and He will help us navigate bad times. Just don't put your head in the sand or in the bucket. So I hope that you have a great day, and I hope that your day is filled with joy and with peace.